All right, today we're going to talk about arrays. So before I actually define what an array is, let's show you the problem that we can solve with it. So let's say that I want to store the names of some fruits. So I can do something like this. I can declare a string and I can say, give it a name of fruit 1 equals, and I can say apple. Can't forget ones. And I can declare another string called fruit 2 is the variable name, and this will be banana. And I can declare another string for fruit number 3. And that's going to be an orange. All right, and I can keep on going and declare as many of these fruit variables as I want, right? And they're each going to hold a string with the name of a fruit in it. That's great. Later on, I decide I want to print them out. 1 per line. So I have to go do system.out.println, and I can say fruit 1, and then I can do it again for fruit 2, and I can do it again for fruit number 3. All right, so what if my list was 10? Then I'd have to have 10 lines that declare each kind of fruit, and then I need 10 different lines to print it out, and every time I want to do something else with my fruit, it's going to take me at least 10 lines. If it's multiple things, it might take me 20 or 30. But you can see the problem as this list gets bigger. Everything we try to do to the things that we're working with gets bigger, and our code gets really bloated and really large very quickly, and it's very inefficient. What if I want to work with 100 different fruits? Do I want to type 100 lines for everything, or 1,000 different fruits? So how can we solve that? We can solve that using an array. So what's an array? So here is the basic definition. It's there goes the bell. It's an indexed container. We'll talk about the idea of indexed in a minute. That holds a set of values of a single type. Indexed container holds a set of values of a single type. In this case, our type is string. So arrays let us create a single identifier, meaning one variable, to organize many items of the same data type. So let's take a look. I made a little Word page here, and here's what we mean when we talk about those things. Here is my fruit variable now. Okay? My fruit variable before held one thing. In this example, this fruit variable is going to be able to hold 7 things. So in here, first one could be apple, and this one can be banana, and this could be orange, lemon. So when we say it's a indexed container, these are the index numbers. So now, before I had individual variables, fruit 1, fruit 2, fruit 3, we actually are going to count from 0 on these, and we'll call this fruit sub 0, fruit sub 1, fruit sub 2, fruit sub 3, all the way up to item number 6. There's seven different values here that we can hold, and I number them 0 through 6. Like everything in programming, we use 0 numbering for our index numbers. So each one of these boxes has an index number. Each one of these boxes is called an element. So this element contains the word apple. This element contains the word banana. this element contains the word orange. This one contains the word lemon. So elements are the items that are in our array. Index numbers tell us which element we're looking at. So let's create our array of fruit. So how do we do it? Let's go back over here. Now, instead of having 3 individual things, we're going to declare one variable. Okay. And we're going to use square brackets. So the square brackets tell me that I'm creating an array of strings. Okay. And then I still have to give it a name. So I'm declaring a string array of fruit. Okay. My variable fruit is an array that holds strings. Remember, it has a single type. Okay. So the only difference here between what we did before is that we put the square bracket on it. Now, to actually create the array, an array is really an object. So out here, we'll create the new object in memory by using the new keyword, just like when we did any other object. And we'll say string, square brackets. Okay. And inside this set of square brackets, we have to tell how many items we want our array to hold. So I'll do what we did before in my word diagram. In my little word diagram, we had 7 elements, so we'll use 7 here. So now I have this fruit variable. The one variable can hold 7 different things, and in this case, those things are strings. So now I can do something like this. Fruit sub 0 equals apple fruit sub 1 equals banana. So this created the array and assigned it to this variable that was set up to hold an array of strings. And now we're going through each of the items and initializing each item with a different value. Now you might say to yourself, well, that doesn't look any shorter than when we declared it. And you're right, it's not. But there are other ways to declare arrays. So let me do this example in a way that's easier than assigning them each individually on an individual line. And that is, if we don't use the new keyword here, we can actually put some curly braces. So this is a second way to make an array of strings. And we can put in here apple. And we separate them with commas. Banana. Grape. Orange. I'm capitalizing everything else, so let me put semicolon out here. Apple, banana, grape, orange, lemon, pear. I'm going to put one more because we were working with 7 before, so let's keep it at 7. Tomato. Tomato's a fruit. In case you didn't know, look it up. All right, so now we have this array of strings called fruit, and it holds 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0 through 6 are the index numbers. It holds 7 items. Okay, now let's print out some of these items. So let's do system.out print line, and we'll print fruit sub 0. So item 0, the first thing in our list should be apple. Let's execute this, and it prints out apple in our output window. If we print fruit sub 4, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we should get lemon. And we do, we get lemon. So we change the index number depending on what element we want to access. We give the index number to access the element that we're looking for. All right, so what does this do for us? What else does it do for us? Well, now that we're using an index number here, we could actually substitute that with a variable like I. And where do we use I as a variable all the time? We use it in a for loop. Count I from equals 0 to while I is less than 7. And we'll do an I++. So this is a loop that counts, if you look at the condition, while I is less than 7. So it's a loop that counts from 0 to 6. Okay. And inside that loop, is where we're going to put that line. So the first thing that happens, you look down here, I equals 0. So we print I sub fruit sub 0, which is apple. Then the loop executes again, and I becomes 1. Fruit sub 1 is banana. Then we go to 2, and we get grape. And 3, we get orange. 4, we get lemon. 5, all the way up to 6, where we get tomato. All right. So this can really help us. Now, if our fruit list grows to 100 elements, it no longer takes 100 lines to process 100 things. We can use a for loop and do them all. When you saw me do that declaration the first time, you saw that we used the new keyword. And that was to create an object, this array called fruit. Now we know objects have methods and fields. And fruit actually has one that we can use, a field that we can use, called length. So where we have the 7 here, we can add, well, first let me do this. Let's look at it. System.println. Let's look at fruit.length. Okay, so we're going to print out the length of the array before we print out the fruit itself. Right here, it tells you there's 7 items in that array. There's 7 items in that array, which is convenient because right here, our condition for our loop used I is less than 7. So really, we don't need to use a hard-coded value here. We can use fruit.length. And we do that often. We do that often. We use the length of the array we're going to process here rather than the number 7. Because if I decide to go up here and add, need another fruit. Mango. I add mango. Now my list has 8 values in it. I don't have to change any of my code down here. It will automatically know that there's 8 items in my array, and it will print out all 8 of them. Okay. So it's always better to use a property than it is to use a hard-coded value. Anytime you see hard-coded values in your code, you should think about, is there a way to automatically get that value, or should I create a field or a variable up at the top of my code to set that value so it's easy to find and change later on. The last thing I want to show you in this video is a different kind of for loop. we're using index numbers here, but there's another kind of loop that we can use anytime we get something that involves a sequence. A sequence is something we can process with a loop. Okay, so in this case, an array is a particular kind of sequence. In this case, it's a sequence of strings. So we're going to use, instead of a regular for loop, I'm going to now show you a for each loop. So a for each loop is different than a for loop because we're no longer counting. Let's talk about a for each loop. So how does a for each loop differ? First of all, for a for each loop, we don't use an index number. We use a temporary value. And that temporary value has to be of the same type of the things we're working with. So I'm going to say string fruit. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change this to fruits. And I know fruits isn't generally, fruit is plural for fruit. But we do this often. For each fruit, and I'm going to put the colon in fruits. So what does this do? I used the plural version and I forced it to be plural even though it's not grammatically correct. So for each fruit in fruits. So what happens here? This temporary variable I set up called fruit is going to hold the string, first the string apple, then it will hold the string banana. So it goes through and gets the individual values. We're not using index numbers anymore. So the first time through our loop, it will be apple. The second time through, it'll be banana. The third time through, it'll be grape, then orange, then lemon. And then we can print those values out. And I can just use the word fruit here. So for each fruit in fruits, I'm going to print the name of that fruit. And let's see what happens. And we don't have fruit anymore, so I'm going to take that out. Although we still do have a length. Let me put fruits.length there, because we can still get the length of this. It still works. It's just that we don't have to use the number anymore. So we're looking at the actual values now, storing them in this temporary variable. So we print out the first value apple, the second value banana, then grape, orange. Works the same way. It's a little more concise. It's a little bit easier to read. A big difference, though, is that this only lets us read the values from our array. Okay. We can't set values, and we haven't done setting values yet, but I'm going to show you in the next video how to set individual values in your array. For loops won't let you do that. Regular for loops will let you do that. A for each loop will only let you read the values.